Good day, everybody. This is Jason Jimenez from the Bold Saviors, making the impossible possible in business. And today I have a very good friend of mine by the name of Bryan Burkholder, who is a change management expert, and he is here to share with us a lot of his wisdom. We're going to learn about his journey, about who he is, what he does, and how he got to be what he is doing today for the people that he serves. And I want to say thank you very much for being here, Bryan. We've gotten to know each other probably the last year and a half. Feels like longer, but I believe it's about a year and a half or so.
Yep.
And in that, I don't even remember when we met, to be honest with you, or how we met. I just know that we met, and then slowly, for some reason, the universe kept putting us together in some capacity. And I'm grateful for this moment because I was looking forward to it.
Well, it has been on my calendar for a little while now, and it's been circled, so I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here as well, Jason. Thanks for having me on.
You have a way with words, but it also comes from a place of real deep meaning for you.
It does. I have been, raised in church and doing church. I was a pastor for 20 years, so it's integral to my life and how I perceive the world, how I perceive my day-to-day, how I operate with my family, with my wife and 4 kids, and then finally how I do business and how I want to treat people who work with me, for me, and the clients that we serve. Everything comes back to that foundation for me.
Has anybody ever, or have you gone through the process of saying what your purpose is? Like, do you have if somebody would ask you, what is your purpose? What would you say? So
in the spiritual sense, I do have a purpose. It's, when I boil it down, it was when I was 16, I remember it very clearly, is to teach God's people true worship. That is the purpose statement for my life in ministry. For work, my purpose statement is to help organizations lay new track to their North Star goals. So that is the purpose statement in practical day-to-day what I do with my life. So I don't know if I get 2 vision statements or purpose statements, Jason, but those are the 2 that I operate in.
So you've not always been a change management expert.
No, I came across it. Accident is a good way to say it. When I started my career in ministry, I would go into a church, take a role, I would fix things, I would build teams, I would put infrastructure in place, both organizationally and physically for that role, and then say, okay, where's the next big mountain to climb? Because I'm not a manager. I'm not a slow drip kind of change person. I want to make big impact, lasting big impact, and I have the capacity to do so. So when that project or that team kind of hit its maximum capacity for that organization, it was time to go on to the next one. So 2 or 3 of those opportunities in, I realized, hey, my role's probably better as a consultant because I can affect that change much more rapidly and usually with longer effect from the outside in, not from the inside out. So next 10 years I spent with that framework in mind. The roles that I took were very project driven. When I interviewed for a job, I'd say, I'm not going to be here more than 2 years, 3 at the most, depending on how much work you can give me, how much change you can help me affect within the organization. Usually that lasted 2 to 3 years. And fast forward to my last job, was hoping to do that inside the organization and did not have the opportunity. So that was my kick in the pants out of that W-2 world into actually being a change management, having a change management organization. So
yeah, you said a lot of things there that I want to kind of dive into a little bit. Leading people in the ministry.
Yeah,
these are people you didn't pay. Some of them maybe were on payroll, but the majority were not. And yet they had a common purpose or reason why they wanted to be there, and you had to inspire and motivate them. What were some of the things that you learned from that era that you're applying today because of the fact that the people that you're engaging through the companies you represent and the clients that you serve, you're not necessarily paying them. They're being paid by the company, but but you're asking them to believe in you that they don't even know you.
Yeah, thank you for making the connection, Jason, because it's a very natural connection from leading volunteers into a change management world. We're asking people to do work that's on top of their day-to-day to help the organization.
Yeah.
So the ability to cast a very succinct yet strong vision for one, how their work is going to help the organization at large, and have almost an altruistic mindset, and selling that, if for lack of a better word, to folks, and saying this is going to be good for the organization. But then secondarily, and more importantly, how is this going to make their lives better? How is this going to help them in their personal life, in their work life, when it comes to change management? So the 20 years I spent casting that vision, both from a organizational standpoint, but also for the individual, to get people to work sometimes 5, 6, 7 hours a week for our religious organization for free, on top of attending a service and all the other things that you ask people to do in the church world. But now we're asking them to do that in their work life. So with an ERP, or with we're doing an ISO 9001 setup here in a couple weeks. Yay! So, but all the people inside the organization are going to have to do the most of the heavy lifting to get that done. So we come in and really try to, the same thing I would do in church with a senior pastor who had a vision. We'd come in and trumpet that vision of their leadership team from an outside perspective. And usually it goes really, really well.
Where do you find your journey, if you go back a little bit, where do you find in your journey of one of the biggest skills that you learned that has really allowed you to overcome obstacles, not only either in your professional journey, but also in the journeys that you see in your clients, because they themselves can't even see it as a problem?
So I'm going to start with something a lot of people talk about, but it's communication. So adapting how you communicate to different ilk of communities is probably one of the largest skills that I had to learn. But if you'll indulge me with a real quick story, I remember leading a setup team. These are the people that would set up the stage and set up the sound and run wires and those kind of things. In my very first pastored as a music pastor, and I would cast vision every meeting that we had, and like, this is why we're doing this, and let's go team. And I had one of the guys pull me aside and go, Bryan, we really appreciate your vision. We just want you to tell us what to do, man. We're just here to get stuff done. So that was really an eye opener for me. That and obviously honing that skill over the last 20 years. But that piece of communication is probably one of the biggest things that I've learned over the last 20 years. You have to mold and shape that vision cast and the why to the people and or person right in front of you.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because especially when you get all excited and you believe in, like, oh my God, the possibilities and everything that's about to happen, and the other person's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Just tell me what to do. That is a different style of communication. And so what happens if you're in a group of, because I would assume in some cases there are like 10 people, maybe even 20 people in a room, and you have a mixture of personalities in there. So you kind of have to blend, but also look at the reactions that you're getting to pivot.
Yeah, so it takes a lot of preparation in a blended environment. So if you've got somebody who's the COO, then you've got somebody who's a manager, and then you've got somebody from the shipping dock all in the same room, and you're talking about the same project, that's where a lot of the work comes in, is being able to communicate value add, not that Cadence or our company doing, or me personally is doing, but what's the value add going to be for this individual and this team to actually accomplish the change that they need to undertake. So it takes a lot of preparation, and as you mentioned, it takes a lot of nimble movement in the moment, pending reaction. I always lean on my passion points and just authenticity if nothing else. This is why I'm passionate about this for you. This is where my passion point lies. This is what I see this can do for you guys, and bring some of that, 2-year metrics, 5-year metrics, 10-year metrics, and then bring it back to, again, how can this help improve your life today? If you'll go through this pain, if you will, or if you'll do the work, this can make your life a lot better. So yeah, it does require a lot of nimble, in the moment thinking.
So what do you do when you have a person, because there's a lot of people that say, I don't like change. I run away from change. Mm-hmm. I'm comfortable in my bubble. Don't touch me. Don't tell me what to do. Don't change anything. This belongs here. What do you do with someone when they can't see that you're doing it for their best interest? It's for the culture's best interest so that their lives could be better.
Well, that's usually mostly the case, Jason. It's like there's very rare do I come across somebody that gets excited about changing things up and making things, continuous improvement. There's very few people that get excited about that. So one of the things that we do, especially in a longer engagement, is because people put a lot of time and effort, and we just want to. First of all, we want to acknowledge the time and effort that people have put into the current state of the union, if you will. We want to say that you have worked so hard on setting things up where they are, and knocking work out, and fighting fires, and getting the stuff done. And so that's the surviving the next order that comes in, right? Yeah. So we want to first of all acknowledge that we are in no way diminishing the work that has been done. However, in order to receive the good thing that's coming, many times to wax eloquent philosophically, we've got to let go of what's in our hand. Mm-hmm. So we'll do an exercise, especially with the people that have a hard time adopting. We'll do an exercise. We'll take the SOP. We'll take a version of the software if they're changing software. We'll burn it. We'll have a grieving session. This is dying.
Do you give them an axe and hammer?
Yeah, like axe and hammer, whatever cathartic thing we can do to help people understand in a very tactile way that this is changing. How the business runs is changing, and whether that's a small change or whether it's a sweeping change like an ERP. Or a purchase being purchased by PE, you've got to let what was go. You got to let it die, and not to say that, again, acknowledge that it was good and be thankful for those seasons. Not to say it's bad or wrong, but to say in order to get to the new and in order to grow, both on that individual level again and corporately, we got to let go of where we were, because there's way better days ahead. So that is one of the big things that we do systematically with either individuals. Sometimes we'll do it with just one person. If there's one manager who's having a hard time, just pull them aside and say, would you let us do this with you? And pull their immediate supervisor, and we're going to do it together and just go through this exercise. So, because what you just have shared is you have to guide. Yes.
You can't tell. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is accurate. There's a balance there, and it comes back to that communication. Some people just go, cool, we're going to do this. There's nothing I can do about it. Just tell me what to do. Tell me how to do my new job, or the new way I need to do my job, and we'll get it done. And that is, I actually like the harder cases. I like the passion cases. I like the people that are very passionate about what they've and have a hard time letting go of what they've built, because it means that they care. Yeah. It means that they care about the company. It means they care about their work. So that navigation of change on the people side is it also gives us an opportunity, if I may, to we're not formally leadership coaches or anything like that, but it allows our team to bring in a lot of our experience into the room with some of the leadership team. Yeah. And say, hey, just understand this is going to be hard for this person. Here's how we would approach it. Here's what we've seen, and allow the leadership team that's already in place a chance to level up, a chance to grow as leaders, and a chance to to get better as they guide their team long term. Because as consultants, we're not there long term. That leadership team is, though, and we want to help them and be an inspiration to them while we're there.
So, to those who do not, and the audience members that don't know what change management is and why does it exist today? Help us, educate us on what is change management?
Yeah, so when you change one little thing in your organization or even personally, or whether you're making large sweeping changes for growth and to initiate, capital investment to initiate the next stage of your organization, it requires that you go through the change management curve, right? And so in that curve is generally focused on how people respond to change and how they see the world, right? So you've got your visionaries on the front end, and they're going to be very early adopters because they can see, oh wow, I see all the puzzle pieces connecting. It doesn't mean they're smarter than anybody else. It's just the way their brains think. Yeah. So they see, oh goodness, if we do this new ERP, or if we go buy this other company, man, we're going to have so much faster growth, and we can do things much more efficiently. And seeing that 5 to 10 year vision for the company and what we need to do now to accomplish it. But what happens is that visionary person, and I mentioned this with the team early on in my career, that visionary person that gets excited about the vision. And there's a big gap between that visionary person and then the next ilk of people who are very practical. They're tactile people. They'll adopt the change on the way up the change management curve. They'll adopt it for sure, but they need to know how. And there's a huge gap between why we're doing something, what we need to do, and then how we're actually going to get that done. And the way I describe change management is we are that bridge between the what we're going to do and how we're actually going to get it done. So we end up writing a lot of project maps. For example, we have a product called the Surveyor. We write a project map to say, we need to do an ERP. Okay, yeah. Great. How in the world are we going to get from what we do today to the way that ERP actually functions and getting the ROI out of that ERP? That's a lot. Data cleanup, data mining, data management, people changeovers. You're going to have a lot of HR change because the processes are going to completely change. Then that obviously leads into procedural change. So you've got almost every process in an ERP, almost every process that you do is going to completely change.
It touches every person in the organization.
Every person, every process from quote to cash. And then usually upstream even, and sometimes they can get even into the marketing world, and marketers go, why are you messing with us? This is an ERP. But sometimes the ripple effects go all the way up and down the organization. So when you're looking at that much how to develop, that's what the change management piece does, is it gets your how people on board, and that's still up the mountain, right? So if you can get the how people on board with what needs to happen, then your detractors, your naysayers start to go, because the how people go, this is going to work. I don't understand why you guys are having a hard time. You just don't want to do it. Then you start to go down the change management. You start to build steam with the actual changes that need to be implemented. And then you get to the point where you've got people who don't want to change no matter what. And then you start to put some accountability in place, and you're moving, you're on the track, you're already on the way. But a lot of companies try to skip that change management hill. They try to jump from visionary to implementation. And this whole section of people is cut out of the loop, and that's where they fail. So you've got to build that bridge between the what and the how in order to get change to stick long term.
Love it.
That's a long explanation. I wish I had my graphs up here with me, but that's what we do.
I kept hearing that you have to have built a level of understanding of the human mind, of how people think and react. How has that showed up for you, or how do you because you're right, there's like so many different personalities that you are having to manage, and not all of them can you manage at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's impossible.
Yeah, you can't do it en masse for sure.
And so when you were talking, when you were sharing, what came to mind was this quote that some things like, you can never lead a horse to water and force it to drink or something of that nature. But then somebody told me years ago afterwards, said, all you need is one to start drinking and the rest will follow. Mm-hmm. And then the ones that don't, they just get thirsty and either walk away or they die.
Yeah.
Right? So when you were engaging in a company who is making a change by definition can mean a lot of things.
Sure.
So where are you finding in today's society, in the market, where are you finding the biggest change currently that is causing the biggest problems in the industries?
So it's a overspoken thing, but the biggest disruptor is AI, and not in the way that you would think. Okay, so AI is an amazing tool that we have just. It's like the internet in 1995. 30 years ago. We've just barely started to scratch the surface on what this can do for us. However, much like the internet 30 years ago, leadership teams think that AI is some kind of magic bullet to bring their SG&A costs down to zero magically. Yeah. And so they're throwing capital and throwing resources and throwing brain power at something that you have to back up. So I think it's a disruptor, not in the way that it's causing large-scale efficiencies at this point in the market. What I see is that it's because people aren't doing the change management piece surrounding AI and implementing this amazing tool, they're not getting from the what they want to do to the how it's actually going to work. Because that gap is still missing in most cases, it causes major disruptions culturally, interpersonally, and frustrations because there's an expectation on the what, and the gap is not being bridged to the how it's actually going to work. So that to me is one of the biggest disruptors that I see, pain points that I see in organizations, especially where we work in industrial companies primarily, that there's a high expectation on what should happen, but nobody's willing to do the work. Not nobody, but it's difficult for companies to take on the work to actually figure out how they're going to use this amazing
should go
tool.
through that cycle of later. We'll do it. I'll push it off.
We'll deal with it later. Or they have visionary type meetings. Yeah. Everybody dream about how AI could serve us, but really what you need to do is walk through almost an engineering process. Say what are the processes that we do every day? Do we have those documented? Do we know what they are? And are we really good at those? Cool, we're really good at those processes. Then you can go, great, we're good at those processes. Now, strategically, what tools are available to us to minimize the workload on these particular processes? Can AI even help us maximize these processes before we even implement a day-to-day AI tool? Let's use this amazing brain that can compute way faster than our human brain can to just analyze our processes. So and then you can say what tools can we actually incorporate, and then you have to implement those tools. So you have to then retrain all the people, because people are still going to be touching data and moving data in and out. So then you have to retrain everybody on how they're going to utilize this tool. You have to train them on for large learning language models. You have to train them on how to do prompts. I mean, it's a completely new world. Yeah. So there's a lot of change management involved in each one of those iterations. There's a lot of thinking and opportunity. There's an opportunity to leverage it, but there's also opportunity to waste your money hand over fist, just throwing pickles against the window, I call it.
One of my favorite quotes that I look at, or I internally share all the time with myself, is systematize everything that's predictable so that you can humanize everything that's exceptional. And as you've been talking, it keeps popping in my head, because I think AI is the first part of that quote, which is systematize everything that's predictable. it's being able to look at everything that is in your life personally or professionally, where you can take technology and automate it, so that which is the second part of the quote, which is where we can be in front of who we need to be in front of. But what you're teaching me is I can't just be in front of you and not know why or how I need to communicate with you. I just had this conversation with my wife this morning, as a matter of fact, and Jessica and I were talking about when someone is wanting to say I'm sorry, when somebody is wanting them to communicate, that this world has allowed us to utilize technology to simplify the ways of communication. But nothing beats, and I was telling her, nothing beats me picking up the phone or walking up to someone's door, knocking on their door and say, hey, I just wanted to say hi, or I wanted to say I'm sorry, or I wanted to whatever, so they can physically see the genuineness of what you're intending. Like texting someone to communicate, I may be wrong with this, but I feel like there's a sense of, what couldn't you just pick up the phone and just say, what do you need to tell me? And we're being conditioned this, and that's, so how does that play into what you're doing and with what you see currently in the market? So
I'm going to say, I'm going to get it down to in terms of dollars. So I'm going to translate what you just said into efficiencies. Yeah. So one of the things early on that I struggled with personally, it was this idea of travel, right? So there's a little bit of imposter syndrome, like, oh my gosh, am I worth this much? Is it okay for me to spend this much money traveling and helping these people? But what I experienced over the course of the years was that we estimate it's 3x or 4x on the ability to affect and help navigate through the changes and actually do our work, which is that internal sales that I talked about earlier. Yeah. So even over Zoom, I can't read the room, right? As well, I can read a face, but I can't read whether is your foot going. Like, what are you doing with your hand over here off screen? Like, are you tapping? Are you, what's happening? So being able to read all those little signals in the room are very, very important to navigating and communicating necessary change for an organization. So that's number one. Number two is it's the meeting before and after the meeting. So when we're on site, I can have this conversation. I can pinpoint the person who's really struggling and say, hey, did we not do a good enough job communicating how? What questions do you have about the how? What details do you need? Where did we miss on our gap analysis? So when I'm not on site, I don't have that opportunity. Yeah. So the interpersonal piece to change management, being face-to-face, is a huge game changer. So I couldn't agree more that, and when we talk about investment in change management, we're investing in your people, investing in the future of your organization, to have that interpersonal play. You can't recreate that even over a Zoom meeting. You can't recreate it. So I frankly think that's why a lot of companies are struggling, especially in PE world, because they're trying to do everything remote. They're trying to get this company up and running on new software remote. Just guys, go figure it out, guys. And oh yeah, by the way, we're going to increase your revenue by 5-10%, and that is going to put a huge burden on your operations while you're trying to do your ERP solution that we threw at you. And all of this requires this. Yeah. To be successful, it requires this. So to your point, I hope that makes your point. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because I think they're those individuals that are professionals and corporations and companies that, one, they have no idea what you do. They don't understand the value, and yet they also know that things need to change. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, I think, human. Well, first of all, we're the weakest link. Always. Always on everything, right? Yeah. And so how do you approach someone? Because you're typically dealing with the C-level, and there's someone that's bringing you in, and what role do they particularly play that brings you in, and how do you engage, and what would you be telling that CEO? Let's say it's the HR person.
Okay.
Because the HR person is seeing the problems, seeing the issues, seeing the implementations of the ERPs and whatnot. But they're trying to convince the CEO or the CFO to spend the money, the CEO to see the vision of what's possible. They don't understand you. They don't know you. They know they need to do something, but they've never implemented change management.
So in those cases, it's why one of our ideal client profiles is that the CEO, the primary decision maker, has to have a vision for what this change will do for their company. And our job is to lay the track for that vision. If the HR person has not convinced the CEO that this is the right path, that we're not hitting our vision because of these issues, our work is going to be very short-lived. So we'll do the work, but it's not going to be the ideal situation, because that CEO has to understand what needs to happen, and there's some education involved in that for sure. And it is an educational sales cycle for Cadence Consulting, that's for sure. However, it's worth it. I'll tell people, I'll say, listen, even if you don't hire us, hire somebody. You need the bandwidth to get this done right, and you need the guidance to get it done right. And that's really, at the end of the day, I'd prefer it would be us, because I think we're awesome. But if you don't hire us, hire somebody. Spend the money, because you'll be very glad you did.
So, as a CEO, how do I measure the impact of the change?
So when a software adoption, what we're looking at is, it depends on the North Star really, but what we're looking at, for example, is software utilization rates inside an ERP. So if we're going to go live with an ERP, we are going to do a gap analysis post go live. How well has the software actually been adopted? Now, studies show that with great change management, you're going to get about 80% adoption rate after a go live. With zero change management, your adoption rate is going to be 1 to 2% of your investment. So let's say you're investing $1 million into your ERP. If you spend another $200K on change management, you're going to get 80% of that software being utilized on a day-to-day basis. If you invest $0 in change management, you're going to get 1 to 5% of that software actually being utilized. So to me, that becomes a very easy ROI to sell on the front end. Now let's look at the case of an integration for M&A. So what we would do is we'd set up metrics for the particular PE or for the buyer. If it's a privately held purchase, where an individual company is buying and integrating, for example. Either way, we're going to set up KPIs that will measure how well that company's been integrated and hit those markers strategically, depending on the purchase. And there's no cookie cutter process. There's cookie cutter principles that we utilize in putting those projects together and putting those maps together. But in one case, you might have to have a KPI of month close. In another case, you might have to have a KPI of are they adopting our methodology on this manufacturing side of things. In another case, it might be how quickly did they get up and running on their service software, because we gave them new service software as part of the integration package. So that North Star for that project dictates the KPIs along the way that will measure the ROI of the change management.
How often do you find when you are implementing change management that it's not only the concept to implementation, but then there is documentations that people must either read or utilize or reference? I find myself, and I'm going to blame myself on this, don't give me a manual,
Yeah.
because I'm not going to read it.
No.
Hell, I don't even read emails that if they don't interest me in the first couple sentences, because it's like, okay, it's definitely not going anywhere where I need, and I already have 50 other things that I got to deal with. So how do you? But yet and yet from an area of risk mitigation, it's needed, wanted,
Yep.
and in some cases required.
Yep. So the documentation is your guide. It's like the law. Okay, nobody except lawyers reads the law. Okay, right? So, but you need it in writing so that you have somewhere to reference. So one of the things that we like to do is to visualize what that law states, right? So one of the primary things we do every day is process flows.
Yeah.
Because it visualizes, oh, this is the decision points we're making, and this is the work that's being done, and here's who's doing the work in the swim lanes. And when you visualize it, it's not, they're not fun graphics, but if you visualize it, then the workflows become much clearer to understanding, and people are smart. So once you visualize it, they start to go, oh, we're wasting so much time here. I should totally use the ERP over here. Or there's this AI tool that would make this process so much faster. So that's number one, is we build process flows for that. It's much easier for the human brain to consume. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Number two is we try to break down things into SOPs that are very easily read. It takes a lot of work to put screenshots in SOPs, but the adoption rate when you have those screenshots and it's one-to-one to how the software works, or it's one-to-one to the drawings, back to the Excel sheet, whatever the case is, when you have that visualization, I guess that's the key, I would say, is the visualization of the work, the adoption rate goes through the roof.
Yeah.
So that's one of our methodologies, is to take that written code, here's the law, and put it in those visually easily consumed chunks for people.
We've seen a lot of each other this past week, and I think we're going to continue to do so. We just recently had lunch with a cybersecurity company.
Yeah.
And in the conversation, we talked about the perspective of the fear of implementing technology, identifying vulnerabilities, and then understanding those vulnerabilities will create change, because if you don't fix it, then you end up having to have bigger problems in the future.
Yep.
Okay, so what I have found personally, and the question comes from the perspective, I have found individuals that would say, you should have known better, you're fired. Or you should have known better, don't let it happen again, and move on. Here's your new rules and regulations, or here's whatever's there. But then they move on. I feel like there's a huge gap and there's a huge hole in that area, because how are you to expect anyone to, first of all, it's their livelihood. They're going to do what you ask them to do, but nobody retains this much of a booklet all in once. There has to have pieces of continuous education into that. So how do you, in your perspective, when there is a breach or there is a lack of something that creates a problem on the technology utilization and implementation, how do you prefer to work with the company so that the employee feels safe, or they feel like they're being nurtured but empowered?
So I'm going to go a little bit different direction.
Sure.
So here's what I usually find happens is there's a lot of pressure being put on this one department.
Okay.
We got to fix it. We got to fix this. We got to fix this. So I ask my favorite question, your favorite question too, Jason. Why?
Yeah.
Why is this a problem? Many times, I'm hopefully not going to get myself in too much trouble, but many times I go, okay, let's talk to the manager. Okay, so why, this person's obviously really trying to do their job. Is it lack of education? Is it lack of SOPs? Is it lack of training in the in the software. Okay, cool. We'll do all those things. Okay, it's still a problem. All right, well, let's go up to the director of operations. All right, so director of operations. Why? We've done all this work here to mitigate this problem. Why is this still a problem? Oh, well, I get a call from the president every day about this, and it doesn't matter what we do here. Oh, it's the completely wrong KPI. So I have a story in my mind but this is a pattern that I've seen over and over again.
Okay.
So, well, why is that that's not the right KPI. Oh, well, we'll have to talk to the owner about that. Oh, okay. So then if you follow the logical progression, many times what I find is an owner or a CEO are trying to solve problems without getting to the root cause of the issue.
Yeah.
And they have to have, in order to solve it, they have to have the humility personally to say, oh, the problem might be me.
Never.
So that is one of the, and I know I took the question a different direction, Jason, but that is why people try to throw manuals at problems. Yeah. Or they try to throw software, or they try to throw AI at problems, because and this is where I will refer people to a leadership coach, not me, but you need some leadership coaching to be able to look yourself in the mirror and go, oh, maybe how I'm running this business and my preconception on what needs to happen, maybe I need to challenge those things, and maybe I need to bring smarter people than me in the room and have both the confidence and the humility to go, I don't have to be the smartest person in the room to do this job. Yeah. And for mid-size industrial companies, so many of those leaders think they have to be the smartest person in the room in order to do their job well, and they don't. It's actually a sign of great leadership to bring in smarter people than you to do those jobs. Or, the converse is true too, where there's over-empowering situations where you're not actually leading and guiding the people that you are, and you're just, in the name of empowerment, you're sticking your head in the sand and not taking ownership and responsibility for the problems that exist. So, it's easy to throw a manual at somebody and go, here's the manual for the ERP. You guys got to go figure it out. But that never solves any of the underlying issues. It's like putting a Band-Aid on your plumbing problem.
You're still gonna leak.
It's still gonna leak. It's we put this Band-Aid on it. Why isn't it working? Well, because you got to dig the floor up. Yep. You got to redo the plumbing, and then you got to put the floor. Oh, that costs too much money. Okay, so do you want the leak fixed or not? That's usually the question that it boils down to. Do you want it fixed or not?
So then the question that arises for me is the pain big enough for you to change or forced to change?
Yeah, so that's where I come back to the visionary statement. So we do a lot of pain mitigation work. Yeah. But we're just an Advil for a cancer headache sometimes. And that really stinks, because they probably need to go to an oncologist and have surgery. But it's expensive and time-consuming to really fix the problem. Yeah. I don't mean to belittle anybody in that area of their life. But the metaphor applies for these, because there's cancer inside the company, and it needs to get rooted out and fixed all the way.
So you're bringing up a topic that I think is very real, in the sense of when there is a bad apple, or what I call a terrorist, within the organization, I would assume that your process will automatically, it's designed to point them out.
Absolutely.
And when you do, is it immediate, or is it at a certain phase? And then what do you do to communicate that in a way where, because there is some process that I'm assuming you have to go through.
So I'll go to, one of our jobs is to illuminate crossroads. So many many leaders come to a crossroad and they make a choice without realizing they're actually making a choice, because they're just focused on the next order or the next. So
can you say that one more time? Because I really liked it, but it didn't hit.
Yeah. So one of our jobs is to illuminate crossroads. Leaders will often make a choice and take a path that they're not realizing that they actually just made a choice.
Ah, got it.
Because no one's illuminated the choice that they're making.
Yeah.
So in the case of a personnel decision, we start with data. Let's fix the easy stuff because it doesn't mess with anybody. Okay, cool. The data. Now we're going to work on processes. And now when you realign processes, what you find is, oh, this person's doing like 10 jobs, and they want to be in everybody's business. And they want a little bit of control, even though that's not their role.
Yeah. And
you've just let this go on. That happens so many times. And you see them as like champion doer for you, but it's really like a little fiefdom that they've set up, like their own little CEO role underneath the CEO. So as an example, so we'll highlight that with process and procedure. Very clean. This is the most efficient way to do this. We want to get everybody from stepping on each other's toes. There's no reason for all this data to go all over the place. Let's line these up, and then those bad apples start to raise their ugly heads and start to go, well, I do all those things. Nope, you don't have to do that work anymore. But I'm in charge of all those things. Nope, that's not your job anymore.
Interesting, because they're feeling threatened.
So it really does realign.
Yeah.
And not in a top-down scary way, but it says, hey, we've visualized how this is really going to be way better for the company, allow you guys to scale, but it means your job description is going to have to get burned up at the end of the day. And so when we present that to the C-suite and the decision makers, we say, okay, this is what efficiency means on the HR side. Mm-hmm. Are you guys ready to step over the line? Are we ready? And many times they're not. I'm just going to be very frank with you. Many times they're not. Wow, we'll just... So then we have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, this process is completely inefficient. And it's taken people sometimes up to a year of dealing with that bad apple or that terrorist messing up the processes that were very clean. And no process is ever clean, but usually a good process has all the contingencies taken into place, the 80-20 rule, all those kind of things. But yeah, so on the people side, we want to illuminate, back to the main point, we want to illuminate that decision very early on through very non-threatening or very logical means to go, this is not a personal thing. This is about doing what's right by the company. So,
I love the word illuminating, because I have found that I think a lot of us will come to terms with the fact that I know that what I want to do, I know what I need to do, but my actions aren't consistent with that. And you're coming in and putting a light in making sure that it actually is.
Yeah. And as a change management person, it's actually necessary to put the onus back on the decision maker or decision makers to say, if you make this choice, it's off track from the track that you said you wanted to build.
Yeah.
You told us you wanted to build to this North Star, and we're laying that track to that North Star. But if you make this choice, I want you to understand that we're not going to get here anymore.
Yeah.
We're now going this direction.
Yeah.
So the track you said you wanted to lay is no longer being laid. So another instance what that looks like is, hey, you're going to have to slow the push down operationally in certain places in order for this change to actually take hold long term. Oh, we can't slow down. Okay, so...
Because that's scary.
Because I want to tell you, this is the North Star. If you don't slow down, we have to make a pretty significant curve here to get to where you want to go, to use that illustration. But if you just keep barreling ahead, we're not going to get where you want to go. So, and you're just staying on the same loop, the same track you've been on.
Yeah.
So we want to highlight that.
Yeah, because I think that there at moments, I think there's a perspective of, but we're making money, or things feel like they're doing okay, but they're not really seeing the back end impact of the human person who's actually doing all of the work, and unnecessary stress, worries, concerns, whatever, is present. And we all have limitations.
So whether it's, again, our three main things, whether it's data, people, or processes, if those things...
Data, people, or processes.
If those three things are not ready to go for a large change management endeavor, it will fail. So you have to have, and it's never going to be perfect, right? But our job is to highlight, hey, here's the data.
Yeah.
It's not there yet. Here's the processes. We don't even know what's going to happen with this. We can't just figure it out because you have to keep the business running.
Yep.
And here's the people that are at risk if we just barrel ahead. So we want to illuminate that as much as possible, as much as they're willing to listen for their own success.
So I want to pivot a little bit because you are in a world where we are in society, especially in the realm of industrial manufacturing, that era or that industry is changing very fast. And with all that, there's a lot of acquisitions that are being either proposed or people considering selling, and you are a very instrumental part of that process if brought in. And let's start with someone saying, I'm looking to buy.
Yeah.
Where do you fit in? Why would someone need to engage you or engage a change management expert for the purpose of making the right decision?
Let's start pre-purchase. Okay, so pre-purchase, we can do a couple of things. One is going to be what I call data veracity testing. And that really just is going and watching people. Because the data that you're using for your due diligence has an entry point. It doesn't just appear out of thin air.
Yeah.
So when we find data veracity issues, one company said they had a 90% direct labor utilization rate. And when I saw that one person was clocking everybody into their jobs before they were actually physically there, they weren't stealing money per se. Nobody clocked in on the payroll clock early. Everybody was very moral in that way. But they didn't realize they were just doing it to be efficient. They didn't realize that they were jacking up the numbers.
Yeah.
It was more like 65% utilization at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So those kind of data veracity issues can actually lower your multiple and save you a lot of money on the front end. So post-purchase, it's about, go ahead.
Can I stick with the pre?
Yeah, please.
Because there's a couple of things there that with what you mentioned is, I want to purchase. Let's assume that they already have a dozen to 24 companies that they're looking into.
Okay.
What would I, if I'm that person, what would I be hiring you to do outside of what you just mentioned? What are you going to be turning into me so that for me to be able to turn, either is it pre-post or is it during the process where I've already made the LOI?
So I would recommend, so our surveyor process is the gap analysis. What do you need this company, at what points do you need this company integrated into your current organization?
Okay.
Or as a roll-up, at what points do you need data integrated for the roll-up's sake to measure success for the roll-up as a whole?
Got it.
For these individual companies. Depending on the situation, we'll run our surveyor gap analysis, which is basically just saying, here's the North Star, here's what we need to build, here's all the risks around it.
And they align with that.
And then you have the opportunity to align with that project map that we put out as part of that. So
got it.
So I hate to give you the it depends, but it really does depend. So if our surveyor and our involvement would put the purchase at risk.
Yeah.
Interpersonally, we're not gonna touch it, because
Or recommend
it,
Yeah.
because we'll say, hey, we recommend waiting until you've actually signed and money has changed hands before you do this really intensive gap analysis. We don't want to disrupt the buying process, and we want to make sure, because any number of things could cause something to go up in smoke and disappear for a buyer, and we want to make sure that we're not disrupting that. Now, on the other hand, if depending on the leverage the buyer has, that surveyor process and the gap analysis could actually save them money. If we do the full thing, not just our data veracity, quick win, right? We could actually run the full surveyor and potentially save them hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars based on the gap analysis, which is a deeper dive than a normal due diligence. It assesses the entire company based on what you need to happen after purchase for integration.
Yep.
So that's our marker. Where is this? How far away is this company actually from that marker? Are you going to have to do new ERP? You've got a number that says, but do they have any documentation? That's further gap. Do they have any written SOPs? That's another further gap. Do they have their manufacturing actually written out, not just with training manuals? Further gap. So
do they have the contracts to support the growth?
do they even have forecasting? Right?
Yeah.
So, do they just have historical data? I know several companies that I'm talking to today that are like, we don't need to forecast. Here's last year's budget. It's not even a budget. It's just don't spend a lot of money. I know $75 million companies that are that way. And so
would you prefer, because you said something, would you prefer the company,
the buyer?
So we're talking about the buyer.
Yep.
When should the buyer be engaging you? Is it, and I know, let's say pre-acquisition, are we talking about it when they've identified the entity that they really say, okay, I think we're going to take seriously, we're going to start doing due diligence? Or is it already when they've already made an offer and they're already in the due diligence phase?
In due diligence is when we should be engaged.
Okay, got
Because
it.
we're going to be focused on the work post. Our primary focus is going to be the post-purchase integration work and the change management post-purchase. But if you bring us in during due diligence, we can start running that gap analysis, putting the projects together, putting the key players in place and giving you a plan to execute day one of purchase.
So, and please correct me if I'm wrong here. So what I heard is you're going to the due diligence phase with the intention of, is it, if I've given you my vision, you are saying this company aligns, this company does not align, and if it doesn't align, here's what we need to do to course correct.
Yeah. So
is that accurate?
Yeah. So we'll do cultural assessment as well. So we'll look at, we have a whole HR piece in our surveyor that talks about, you talked about bad players earlier on. We identify those things and we said this is going to be a lot more work than just throwing an ERP at somebody or just giving them the process. Maybe they have processes, procedures, maybe they have a playbook, but you have to, gap analysis isn't just data.
Yeah.
Isn't just process, it's also people.
So then on that note, then who else is the entity, let's say the CEO, who else are you bringing in that would come in and support your change management efforts, if you will, and initiatives? Because you mentioned a leadership coach that may be a necessity.
Yep.
Somebody who's a culture specialist, somebody who is a cybersecurity, whatever. What are things that people should be expecting when they're looking at acquiring a company and doing integration of people, technology, everything? Yeah.
So, for example, we can do, I'll just stick with the ERP.
Sure.
So we can help you with ERP and software selection. But I also know 2 vendors that are experts at that, and that's all they want to do. They just want to do, they want to help you do your software selection. If you need some major cultural upheaval, we're not going to do that actual in-depth work for you, but we're going to give you the recommendation. Here's 2 or 3 vendors that we recommend, and here's the order that we recommend doing it in.
Got it.
So we recommend doing ERP first, or we recommend doing some culture work first. Or, hey, have you guys done on the IT side? It looks like you guys have a great IT person. When was the last time you ran your vulnerability scan? And we want to make sure that that gap is analyzed as well. So all of those tools are at our disposal on the front end to both measure, but then also to execute post purchase.
Why wouldn't, and you're making me really think about this right here, because why would I, or someone who owns and operates a company, why would I not engage you as an advisory board or on the board?
On the seller side now, or on the buyer side?
Just in general.
Yeah.
I'm a business.
Yeah.
I don't have any plans to selling the business anytime soon, but I want the choice to do so. But I need counsel. So
I would say if your horizon, the work that we specialize in is laying track, laying foundation. It's long-term work that you're investing in. So if your horizon on the sales side, if your horizon is 5 years out,
okay,
absolutely you should engage us.
Okay.
If your horizon is 18 to 24 months, I know of some folks that are way better assets for you on the advisory side, because they're going to get you those quick wins to raise your value in a short period of time. So our value add is if you have a 5-year horizon and you need, again, I harp on the ERP, but you need to do some big change management to set yourself up for success to sell in 5 years. It's going to take you a year to 18 months to do that work. So,
because if you don't do all that work, then your valuation and what you end up getting, it drops
dramatically. But you also need to make sure that you get that change management done and people are actually utilizing the new software, the new process, the purchase you just made is actually,
have a smile on their face.
and is actually running within 12 to 18 months, because you need 2 to 3 years of financials that show steady growth.
Got it.
Without disruption. And then you're going to market, and it'll take you a year from go to market to actually selling. And it's those 3 critical years, 2.5 to 3 critical years of data that your buyer is going to be looking at. So if you have a 5 to 10 year horizon, yeah, we can absolutely help, because those big changes need the bandwidth of a quick change management, not a EOS or Summit or anything like that. That's a slow change management, slow drip change. You need it done within 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
So for a seller, yes, absolutely. Bring us onto your advisory. Let us help you get things set up so that your disruption is minimized for that 2 to 3 year crucial window of data gathering for growth and high EBITDA, growing EBITDA through those 2 to 3 years, right? So you want to make sure that you get the high impact of the change management done on the front end, if that makes sense.
It does,
so,
100%. Yeah, because at the end of the day, I think people just need to, in my opinion, I think people need to choose to have the option to sell. Doesn't necessarily mean they have to, but they need to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
So what do you want the audience to know that they don't know yet that we haven't discussed about?
Oh man, there's a lot.
Because I'm loving the conversation.
Yeah.
I just don't know there's anything else that really pops out to me and I really want to honor this time, because I've learned so much from you today.
So let me explain the confluence of things that brought Cadence as Cadence to be.
Yeah.
So as a musician, I have an undergrad degree in theory composition with a vocal emphasis. We were talking about that before we jumped on. And that is another huge part of my life. I believe in the value of the arts, and specifically music. And we were talking about that and how it shapes life. But there's an interesting thing with classical music that a cadence is. So I'm going to give you, if you'll indulge me, I'll give you 2 illustrations. Please. But a cadence is a coming to home base. It's kind of the end of a movement. has a cadence, and you kind of stop and you feel like, oh, is that the end of the song? It's not the end of the piece. It might be the end of that section of the piece, but it's not the end.
Yeah.
But it comes back to home base, usually, in the classical music sense, and then the new theme begins. The same piece. It's a continuation of the same ideas that the composer originally had, but it's like, wow, this is a completely new theme. That's what we want companies to see themselves as. We're not starting a whole new company, but there has to be a cadence. There has to kind of be an end and coming to a home base. Why does this company exist? Who are we? And then how that's expressed changes dramatically into the new season. That's number one. Number two, I found a couple months ago, actually last school year, I did third grade career day. I thought, how the heck am I going to explain change management to third graders?
Yeah.
And what I came up with has been very valuable to me in explaining it to 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds as well. But imagine a marching band going around a curve, going around a corner. Each individual person has to change their cadence, how quickly they are marching, in order to stay in line and stay in beat and stay organized as a unit to go around that curve. It has to go down to every individual person. The person on the inside takes tiny little baby steps to go around the curve, and the person on the outside has to take huge, long strides to get around that curve. And it's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair. The person on the outside has to work way harder than the person on the inside. But it's a really good illustration of what we do in change management. We're not trying to change the band. We're not really even trying to change the tune. What we're trying to do is help a company that's never had to go around that massive of a change with this large organization from collapsing under the stress of that change.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies will say, okay guys, up there we're turning right. Y'all are smart, figured out to turn right. And Joe, the tuba player, who's the best tuba player, that's why you put him in the middle. He puts down his tuba and he starts barking orders at everybody. And everybody's barking back at Joe, just play your tuba, Joe, we'll figure it out. And chaos ensues.
Yeah.
And that is the way most companies handle change management, rather than hiring somebody who understands, hey, this person on the end, we're going to come talk to you. You're going to have to march really long. It's coming up. Here comes your change. You're going to have to march really long. Hey, you on the inside, you're going to have to march really slow. And yeah, you're going to have to slow your pace. And you're used to marching at this fast pace. Don't put down your instrument. Keep playing. But here it comes. Slow down now, right? So that takes a tremendous amount of organization and a tremendous amount of communication across all levels of the organization, from the clarinets to the tubas to the percussion to the person who's keeping time. And we don't want the person, the CEO, who's keeping time for everybody to stop doing that either. We want to make sure that you slow down at the right pace. Don't stop. Just slow down to the right pace to make that change and get everybody around the curve in an organized manner, and that you can pick up the pace after you've made the change. So that's the metaphor we use all day, every day for change management.
You are obviously an expert, because I was visualizing every person you were talking about in that band line as you were making the curve. And it made so much sense, because I could see myself being the one person on the inside just making these like small baby steps, but then I'm just moving this way. But then I can also see myself saying, okay, I am part of the puzzle.
Yeah. And it's not going to, if we do it well, it's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
The reason change management lasts forever is because we're not taking the time to organize the communication, the projects, which lines have to make the change at what time, and do it in an organized, orderly fashion. That takes a lot of extra work that the person out front with their baton as the leader doesn't have time and bandwidth to do.
Yeah.
So that's the work that we do, is help that band around the corner.
I love it. I love it. And so how do people get a hold of you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm Bryan at cadenceconsultants.com. You can go to cadenceconsultants.com. www.cadenceconsultants.com is our website. And there's a find out more little form you can fill out. It's easy peasy. I'm also on LinkedIn, Bryan Burkholder on LinkedIn. You can just grab me there and connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the best way to do it.
Awesome. Well, one last question. You have honored me by taking on a chapter with Landing Big Wells.
Oh, yeah.
And you have taken on the role, taken it on, and accepted the ability to run a chapter. Could you talk a little bit about what's the name of the chapter? What is your cadence for what you're building?
Yeah.
And who are you putting into your ecosystem so that you are all aligned in such a way where you're creating value and impact to the people who show up?
Yeah, so I'll remind you when we met. So it was my very first business development hangout, social as Cadence Consulting. So we just changed the brand, and I went with my brand new business cards, and you invited me to the Landing Big Whales over. We were hanging out, closing the place down, and he said, I think you should come to my Landing Big Whales. So I did. But I was very fresh. I'd been doing the work, but I had not been doing BD up to that point. So I took a year and a half to go look at all the options that were out there, and I won't name them, but see what was out there. And what I found was that Landing Big Whales aligned with my ethos and the intentionality that I have as a leader. So I've got a good friend who is my first business development partner. We're even partnering on something upcoming. But the idea of Landing Big Whales was that your ICP, your ideal client profiles, all align. Maybe not perfectly, but that Venn diagram is really strongly overlapped. And that made a lot of sense to me, that how I can refer someone who, I can hear about something, but if I'm in with the client that my people also sell to, the power of that referral is, it's magnified 5-10x, rather than just, here's my buddy, I heard about you, but you're not my client. So that makes so much sense to me and is actually working in my sales cycle right now.
That's awesome.
So I thought, how can I multiply that principle, but speed it up? Efficiencies, right? That's what we want. We want to be efficient with our time. So the Landing Big Whales model of 2 hours every week, not just for referrals, but it's a business development engine. So when I see that way, and you've cast that vision so well, Jason, when I see that Ray and now Nader are now they work for me. They're my business development team. And it doesn't mean that I boss them. It means I lead them. So my job is now, hey, how can I empower you? How can I make sure that I'm top of mind when you're in front of my ideal client?
That's right.
So, and that doesn't happen overnight. It's not a handshake. It's not a contract you sign. It's also very relational. But we have to be able to trust each other, both personally and professionally. So that takes time. And the setup of the routine of the going through the agenda, which is magic by itself, by the way.
Thank you.
So going through the agenda every 2 weeks, getting to know each other, training each other on what we do, helping each other through whale issue processing and all the things that we do builds that trust so much faster than, hey, every other month, can we have lunch, dinner, and maybe we'll happen to do some work together. Now you're intentionally trying to get work together. Now you're intentionally trying to get business together. Now you're meeting together on a regular basis and developing it. It doesn't have to be best friends, right? But the level that I put it at is, do I want to invite these people to my birthday party? And if the answer is yes, then yes. So our chapter is called the Compass chapter, right? Because we're change management navigators at Cadence.
That's right.
So that's the name that we chose as a leadership team. And our ICP is mid-size industrial companies, manufacturing or distribution. And that's really, in today's dollars, 25 upward of 250 million. We put it in terms of dollars because it helps, but headcount could be anywhere from 20 people all the way up to 300.
Got it.
So, for the MSPs out there that think in terms of headcount.
Yeah.
So that is our target client together as a team. Now, it doesn't mean we couldn't serve in healthcare, we couldn't serve in contracting and construction verticals. We definitely can, but we're focused really hardcore on the people that serve in that space. So we are looking for multiple centers of influence, multiple COIs who serve in that space. Change management, we've got marketing, we've got culture branding, we've got potentially a CIO, we've got an MSP, we've got potentially a CFO. So we're not stepping on each other's toes with the services that we offer either. And we're not trying to compete with each other, but we can truly be a referral partner at the end of the day. So I hope that's what you're looking for. That's
100%. It's because it's your chapter, it's your culture, right?
Yeah.
It's we're just trying to provide a framework.
Yeah, and the framework is solid. So I'll just tell you that.
That means the world to me.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. I can't thank you enough for today. Appreciate your time. And ladies and gentlemen, please, when you get a chance, look up Bryan Burkholder, Cadence Consulting. And I can tell you is that if you're in the space of looking for change, don't look any further. Thank you.